हेलो, 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 नमस्कार, जय श्री राम, जय हिंद, क्या हाल-चाल हैं आप सब लोगों के? अगर मैं ये बोलूँ कि इस सेशन का बहुत टाइम से इंतज़ार था, इट विल नॉट बी अ रॉन्ग स्टेटमेंट मेरे साइड से बिकॉज़ फ्रैंकली स्पीकिंग जब से यूट्यूब शुरू किया है, द आइडिया हैज़ ऑलवेज़ बीन टू टॉक विद पीपल जिनसे कुछ सीखने को मिले। द आइडिया हैज़ ऑलवेज़ बीन टू टॉक टू पीपल जिनको काफ़ी टाइम से हम ऑलरेडी सोशल मीडिया पे, न्यूज़ डिबेट्स के ऊपर और हर एक इंटेलेक्चुअल प्लेटफ़ॉर्म को जिसको भी हम फ़ॉलो करने की कोशिश करते हैं। वी सी पीपल टॉकिंग, वी सी पीपल टीचिंग अस और इस चैनल को शुरू करते हुए मेरा टारगेट यही था कि मैं ऐसे लोगों से ही कन्वर्सेशन कर पाऊँ अगर भगवान की दया रही एंड व्हिच हैज़ बीन हैपनिंग फॉर द लास्ट 2 इयर्स बट is this a fan moment? Yes, it is. Is this an overwhelming moment? Yes, it is. Is this a moment wherein we are going to learn a lot of stuff? Yes, we will. और ये सब मैंने आनंद सर को एक बारी बैक स्टेज पे बैक एंड पे ऑलरेडी बोल दिया है। नमस्कार सर, जय हिंद, जय श्री
Hi,
राम,
hi,
कैसे हैं
Sandeep.
सर
How
आप?
are you?
सर,
Hi, Abhi.
जैसे मैंने आपको अभी ऑफलाइन भी बोला सर, इट इट इज़ अ फैन मोमेंट, इट इज़ एन
It's
ओवरवेलमिंग
not.
मोमेंट
You're very kind. Thank you.
एंड
Thank you very much.
आनंद सर से मेरी काफ़ी काफ़ी कन्वर्सेशन हुई ऑफलाइन जिसके बारे में वी विल लीव दोज़ ऑफलाइन कन्वर्सेशंस एज़ ऑफलाइन आल्सो। सर,
Yes.
बिफोर आई गो इंटो द सीरियस टॉपिक सर, काफ़ी क्वेश्चंस लोगों ने भी भेजे हैं। वी हैव आल्सो प्रिपेयर्ड सम क्वेश्चंस फॉर यू। आई वांट टू नो अबाउट योर लेटेस्ट बुक सबसे पहले सर एक बारी बिकॉज़ उसके बारे में मैंने ट्विटर पे भी देखा, अभी तक मैंने नहीं पढ़ी है सर, आई विल बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट। सो अगर आप उसके बारे में थोड़ा-सा लोगों को बता सकें, व्हाट इज़ द बुक ऑल अबाउट एंड हाउ डू यू मैनेज टू गेट टाइम ऐसे रेगुलरली लिखने का सर? यू आर ऑन टीवी, यू आर टीचिंग, यू आर अ साइंटिस्ट, यू आर अ पैनलिस्ट, आप लेक्चर्स देते हो अलग-अलग जगह पे एंड देन यू कम आउट विथ अमेजिंग बुक्स।
Thank you very much, first of all, for having me on your show. It's wonderful and it's a real pleasure and an honor. The book that is coming out, I think it's day after tomorrow, in fact, is the launch.
जी,
It's called Souffle. It's a fiction, it's a novel. And this is my fourth book. The previous three all have been novels. Although by the end part of this year, I'm co-authoring a book, non-fiction book that's coming out on India's forgotten scientists. I've written a lot about that as well. But I like writing fiction because it's a nice departure from the drudgery of what I do from 9 to 5, which is science, which is totally non-fiction. So in fact, I let me confess that I don't like even science fiction that much.
हुँ,
I like science to be in the non-fiction domain and let the imagination fly after when the sun goes down. So I like writing fiction, and this new one is it's quite racy, but at the same time it's quite grounded. It's got a nice kind of a simmering tension to it. It's kind of a thriller, murder mystery. It's all rolled into something which is not quite a quick read, but I think personally I feel it would be a quite a satisfying read. So I look forward to how the readers perceive this book as, and I hope they like it. But one can never be sure. So
आई
yes.
एम प्रीटी श्योर सर आप जो भी लेके आओगे पीपल आर गोइंग टू लाइक इट। How has life changed for you, sir? And when I say how has life changed for you, I want to know 2014 के पहले आपकी लाइफ कैसी थी? तो 2014 के बाद आपकी लाइफ कैसी? Because apparently, from talking from whatever side we want to talk, from the left or the right, or if we want to use centralists also,
Yes.
apparently कुछ जो भी चेंज हुआ है 2014 के बाद ही हुआ है। पहले कुछ और
Yes.
था, 2014 के बाद कुछ हुआ है। कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं कि खराब हो गया है, कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं अच्छा हो गया है। आपकी लाइफ कैसे बदली है सर? How has been
So
life since 2014?
since 2000, actually, my life hasn't changed much at all. I'm one of those people who don't like a lot of changes in one's life. I decide what is great, what is good, and I stick to that.
हुँ,
Be it cuisine. So before my little bit of health bip, I used to love chola bhaturas of the
हुँ,
steamed variety and non-steamed ones, and I would just stick to that. So what I like, if I really like it, I stick to that, and I don't change that much. For example, you won't believe it, but I go to extreme lengths to use the real old version of Microsoft Word and PPT.
वाओ!
I hate
वाओ!
those changes that they bring every 2-3 months. It's so irritating because you go to start all over again. So I hate those new PPT, new Microsoft Word, the new Twitter, the whole front that came, the facade
हुँ,
and the home screen. I went to insane lengths to be able to revert to the old Twitter, and after some time, it just wasn't possible. So I'm one of those people who resists change. So I didn't quite get the direction of your question. You mean to say my life professionally, or so there's not much change, to be honest. I've learned a few lessons. For example, what I've learned is that people have the lot of my friends, erstwhile friends, I'd like to believe, they were bitten by this MDS, Modi derangement syndrome, and they've gone completely bananas. They've gone mad. Uh, I don't know whether they have gone mad. Maybe they were earlier, mad to begin with, but I just couldn't gauge how the extent of their madness. But I have also learned that it's almost impossible to have a leftist as your friend, true friend. That I have learned. And I think it's because I seriously believe it's a kind of a mental block, you can call it, or a disease is a very strong word. But being leftist, when all around you you see evidence of the destruction being a leftist has caused to nations, to people, to parties, to everyone, to science, to everything, and still you are a leftist, then there's something wrong with you. And part of why you dislike anyone who is not a leftist is because you're embarrassed that they've kind of exposed you by shifting away from your own ideology. So you can never trust them, you can never, but you can be friendly with them. I'm friendly with a lot of, I mean, for heaven's sake, I'm in JNU, so I confront them every day. But I'm nice to them, they're nice to me. But I mean, I know what they're. So that has changed. That realization, I would say, has come because I simply could not grapple with how insane this ideology can make some people. If it is a facade, if they're acting, then that's great. Because if Sitaram Yechuri is not really a leftist, he is just pretending to be one, I congratulate him. He's managed to fool everyone, and it's great. I mean, that really is a tick mark to his mental capabilities. But if he actually is a leftist, तो कुछ नहीं हो सकता बेचारे का. So that realization that they can never be friendly, they can never be true friends, that has I would say, the only thing that I have realized post 2014. Other than that, to be honest with you, the government is better than the Congress in delivering a lot of things in terms of development. But it's not a marked departure if we were hoping for that. Modi is a status quoist. It's not he is great at delivering things that Congress had promised, but he is not confrontational. He is scared of taking this country, making this country leapfrog. He takes very brave decisions, but then he backtracks. Farm Bill is one. There's so many others. So not much has changed in that sense. And especially if you really need to know, all of us, I suppose, I'm being very honest, are privileged to a great extent. We never needed a bank account to be opened, or a gas cylinder, or a toilet to be made, or a tap connection, all those things that have happened for the good for our countrymen, men and women, in the last 8 years. So we really didn't need those things. So, we were all right to begin with. What we really needed was, minimum intervention by the government. That hasn't happened. It's not that the government intervenes in our lives to an extent that is irritating, more than irritating. No, not really. There are a lot of it. I mean, I am a child of the 70s and the 80s. I mean, I know the extent of government intervention. For everything, you had to stand in line for a vehicle, or a phone connection, or a gas connection. All those things are gone. You really don't need the government now, unless you're really forced to. So to come back to your question, nothing has changed except few bits and pieces here and there of realization.
But sir, you said the realization and bits and pieces of realization. Has it only been from your side, or people who apparently are leftist and were your friend, or maybe even are your acquaintances right now? It happened
Yes.
from their side also, या फिर ये realization सिर्फ आपको ही हुआ था?
So they have gone completely potty. I mean, they've gone mental. So they've started. I mean, they've started hating Modi so much
Hmm.
that, I mean, even the simplest of things, that is ideology agnostic,
Hmm.
religion agnostic, Hindutva
Hmm.
agnostic.
Hmm.
Uh, Two examples: making a toilet, Swachh
Hmm.
Bharat,
Hmm.
or Fit India campaign.
Hmm.
They've gone so mental that they started finding faults with even that.
Hmm.
So they said, do not we don't support Swachh Bharat campaign, making toilets, because it is taking away. Believe it or not, this is true. They said it is taking away the bonding time
Hmm.
between village women at 6 a.m. in the morning, when
Hmm.
they used to go, before toilets were given to them. They would go to the fields and they would be able to talk to the other women at 6 a.m. in the morning. Modi has
Right.
stopped that.
Right.
मतलब this really is derangement. There's nothing else. फिट इंडिया में शुरू हो गए कि नहीं, फिटनेस विल कॉज मोर, जैसे एक ने तो कहा था, आई थिंक इट वाज Ashish Nandi or his brother, I can't really remember. Both, are 19 of one and 20 of the other, as they say. He said, I hope India doesn't win the World Cup,
Hmm.
because then this nation would become, or would come under the throes of nationalism. मतलब ऐसी सिली चीजें जो है ना, वो दिमाग में हमारे आती भी नहीं है, हम सोच भी नहीं सकते, लेकिन ये उन लोगों ने सोचना शुरू कर दिया है. सो जस्ट टू आंसर यू, they have changed like this.
Hmm.
What can we do?
प्रोबेबली सर उनको सोने का जो कलर जो जनरली येलो हमें दिखाई देता है उसको उसके अंदर भी भगवा दिखाई देता होगा कि ट्रॉफी जीत लेंगे और वो भगवा आ जाएगा तो दिक्कत हो जाएगी बट ऑन अ सीरियस साइड सर जो लेफ्ट का बाल है करेक्ट मी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग दे वांट टू फर्मली कंट्रोल जो कल्चरल नैरेटिव है बिकॉज जो रिलीजन और जो व्हाट यू से सिक्योरिटी नैरेटिव था उसको चेंज
Hmm,
किया गया है कुछ हद तक इसमें
hmm,
कोई डाउट नहीं है नो डाउट यूरी के अटैक्स हुए नो डाउट पुलवामा हुए बट इंडिया
hmm.
रिएक्टेड इंडिया डिड
Yeah.
नॉट सिट बैक एंड से कि पहले की तरह कि चलो तुम आके हमारे यहाँ बम फोड़ के चले जाओ एंड वी आर जस्ट गोइंग टू क्रिटिसाइज यू वी विल नॉट डू एनीथिंग सिक्योरिटी के ऊपर रिलीजन के ऊपर थिंग्स चेंज कल्चरल नैरेटिव में आई थिंक लेफ्ट स्टिल वांट्स टू डोमिनेट बीट मॉन्यूमेंट्स क्योंकि जब ये बोला जाता है कि ताजमहल किसने बनवाया आज से 500 साल पहले आज से 500 साल बाद भी ये बोला जाएगा शाहजहां ने बनवाया now
Hmm,
if someone is going to talk about central vista after 200 years Modi has written his name in history books. Okay, this
hmm,
was done under Modi. Indira Gandhi doesn't have anything to claim except for Rajiv Gandhi International Airport, Indira Gandhi National Airport, this airport, ये university and all those things. Do you think जो cultural narrative है, जो अभी भी left control करना चाहता है, that is what the fight is all about? क्योंकि दो front पे already they have been wiped off, and what has been left, the cultural thing is what they want to stick on to.
that's a very interesting question. And in fact, as it happens, in a week's time, I'm giving a lecture in Mumbai on
Hmm.
Hindus in so-called Hindu Rashtra. They
Hmm.
are victims of a state-sanctioned and state-sponsored apartheid. They are eighth-class citizens.
Hmm.
So, and therein I would give, I don't want to give much away because I'm really preparing well for this lecture. I think
Right.
it's a very important lecture from my side.
Right.
But I have mentioned these 8 reasons because of which I believe Hindus are eighth class citizens in this country. Before,
Hmm.
I mentioned
Hmm.
them in Jaipur dialogues. I mentioned them others at other places as well, on TV as well. So that's not new.
Hmm.
Um, so to answer your question, I think this government has continued this subjugation of Hindus.
Hmm.
If even after 8 years you find 8 reasons why Hindus are eighth class citizens in this country, leave alone second class citizens,
Hmm.
then you have to blame this government. I mean, you have to blame Modi. So the
Hmm.
cultural narrative is just one of the reasons that I explained why the left has a stranglehold, and we've done nothing. There are so many other reasons. Temples under the government control.
True.
There are more temples now under Modi that are under state control than they were under
Hmm.
Congress control.
Hmm.
When Congress government was there, then the plight of the Kashmiri Hindus, nothing has happened. The Waqf Act, is absolutely draconian. The RTE, and then of course this whole narrative of judicial judgments, the legislations that are anti-Hindu, and then of course you have celebration and commemorating all those who've killed and murdered and committed genocide against Hindus. So if you were to take a report card analysis of what has changed in the last 8 years, I would say nothing. On top of that, because you expected some change and you've been disappointed, it has rather than evolving, it has gone in the other direction. You see, if you did not expect anything and nothing happened, you wouldn't mind that much.
True.
But if you remember that the legendary dialogue from was it Kashmir Files or the other movie of Vivek Agnihotri ki government bhale hi unki ho, system to hamara hai.
System, Kashmir Files. Kashmir
Yes.
Files.
Now, meri government nahi hai. I've always voted Nota, so I get a lot of brickbats because of that. But the fact is, I did support Modi, and I did support a change because I saw a lot of visionary things that he had promised to do. I mean, the primary among them was when he said, when he said it, he said, "I mean it. That the government has no business to be in business." I mean, I thought, that is going to really catapult India into middle income economy nation. When he brought in the farm reforms, when he brought in so many other things. But the point is, when someone is disappointed, then the resentment is more. If you don't expect anything, then it's fine. यार चल रही है सरकार, आएंगे जाएंगे, ऐसे वाजपेयी जी ने कहा था. But when you expect something and you don't get it, and as you as a Hindu expect a renaissance, a cultural renaissance, a departure from the kind of negativity that the left had a stranglehold on the cultural thing, and then you see that rather than things improving, they've actually regressed. So disappointment zyada hoti hai, So that stranglehold is very much there. It's very much there.
Would you also say a lot a lot has to do with how, जैसे लोग कहते हैं कि four pillars of democracy, and they include journalism, media also into it, कि media plays a very important role into how the country is going to run. But then you see narratives like जो मुस्लिम और दलित्स का एक बना के जय भीम की बात होने लगेंगी, या उस तरह की कॉन्वर्सेशन होंगे. People like Rajdeep Sardesai, who and I'm taking names यहाँ पे sir because obviously you have to put a face to how conversations happen, and people like Rajdeep Sardesai maybe, or अभी एक जो
Who, sorry? Who?
Rajdeep Sardesai sir.
The
When
boxer or journalist?
sir, I don't know
They're
what
the
he
two.
does. People say he is a journalist, but
Okay. I know only
मुझे
of the boxer, Rajdeep Sardesai. Maybe this one is a different one. I don't know.
yeah, the one who got slapped in America sir, जिसको US में जिसकी पिटाई हुई थी कैमरे के सामने.
Okay.
So when they say when they never question about how Dalits are being killed by Muslims, और जिस तरीके का एक disharmony create करने की कोशिश करी जा रही है, एक जो, और if you allow me sir,
Yeah.
कहते हैं कि इंडिया के अंदर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर जो है काफी नीचे चला गया एंड
Mm.
तबाह हो गया, बट वन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर व्हिच हैज डेफिनेटली प्रोग्रेस्ड इन इंडिया ओवर द लास्ट 8 years let's say has been the narrative of fake news. और वो
Yes.
इतने अच्छी से उसको बढ़ाया गया है कि बड़े से बड़ा जर्नलिस्ट हो और छोटे से छोटा फैक्ट चेकर हो, अब ये नहीं पता कि वो बांग्लादेश का है या हिंदुस्तान का है या जो भी है. Do you think we as a nation have failed even in this digital era to come up with solutions to counter these narratives before they go ahead and harm India as a nation at a larger scale, which they have done in the recent past, which we have seen in the last maybe a year, if not more?
See, there are two things here. It's a very interesting question. In fact, there are three things here. The first one is, as Gopi Krishnan, who was a journalist who exposed the 2G scam. He works for the Pioneer, and he said something very interesting, and I've quoted that as well. He said it 4 or 5 years ago. He said, "You must realize that." I think his figure he quoted was 70%, 60 to 70% of all Indian journalists
Hmm.
are card-carrying members of left-wing youth organizations.
Hmm.
ISA, and a couple of other organizations, left wing, CPIM. So they are communists, they are leftists,
Hmm.
they're not going to change. And maybe he has concrete data, he's listed out and all those things, but I certainly believe it. The reason why there is a pronounced leftist tilt to it is because of the people who are journalists. They come into
Hmm.
this field
Hmm.
mostly from humanities,
Hmm.
and they are leftists to begin with. So, and very few of them change. And as Rahul Roshan, very good friend of mine, and he's done fantastically well, and his contributions should be admired by everyone. What he says is that if in any media organization, I think I forget the law that he there is some kind of a law that he quotes. I forget that law. He says that if there is, if it is a right-wing media organization, and or if it is not a pronounced right-wing media organization, something I'm forgetting, and if there is some amount of leftism that you inject in it, over time it would become a pronounced left-wing organization. So because the right-wingers give the leftists a chance, and when they come in, they kind of, as you say, ek machli sabko ganda karti, or whatever, a bad apple. So the media is, the narrative was to begin with, and even now you see most of the people who write these idiotic op-eds that you can't even read. I mean, I won't even wrap my kachoris in that kind of center spread. You see them day in, day out. Every newspaper carries them. All those people who, like, weather beaten buffoonery going on, but they still get paid for writing those things. So second point is, how do you negate it? And I think it's, the government should negate some immediately, because then it has an effect. For example, the fake church attacks, the government came in only after a month. For 1 month, the world was being shown a face of India that simply did not exist. That was complete fake. That India is, Indians are harming fellow Christians, and you had banner headlines saying that Christians are tired, enough of this, and then after a month the government came out with data that all those things were not Hindutva attacks on churches, but routine burglaries and some routine arson, and that happened more during the UPA. Now that data could only be brought in by the government, but they took 1 month to bring that data in. And here you see within 24 hours how fake news spreads. I mean, in 1 month, you can imagine all those people were writing all those articles, and even now they quote those, that a nun was sexually assaulted by Hindutva people, and later on it turned out they were Bangladeshis. The woman who wrote that is that, I think, Rana Ayub. She alleged an RSS or some Hindutva organization was behind that sexual assault. But she's a superstar now. And she's never had to apologize for what she said. So yes, fake news has to be busted, but then I'd much rather it be done by at least on some issues by the government immediately, if the attack is on the government. Otherwise, if somebody spreads a fake news, and then there are enough people on social media to kind of bust that, and we've seen how fraudulent some fake news busters are. How selective they are, how they will not out or bust the fake news spread by people who belong to their ideology or their party. So agenda carrying is something that was, I must admit to you, very new to me, because I couldn't understand, belonging to science, which is totally ideology and religion, and of course religion agnostic. It is antithesis of religion, but I couldn't understand why people are carrying agenda. And this thing about why people won't cite previous instances, and I ran a thread that I disbanded the day Modi won in 2019. That thread had 250 tweets, and each tweet was an instance where Muslim mob had attacked Hindus, Dalits and non-Dalits, and media would never focus on that. They were running hate trackers, tabulating only the Hindu mobs attacking Muslims. But all those hate trackers were so selective. They would never talk about Muslim mobs attacking even fellow Muslims, attacking Dalit, attacking Hindus, attacking tribals, all those things based on religion, climbing onto a bus and segregating the passengers, who is Muslim, who is non-Muslim, all those things they were doing, Muslim mobs. But we never heard those things. So, and after Modi won, I realized that, look, Indians have rejected this kind of propaganda, right? So let me disband it. But unfortunately, wrong or right, it still carries on. I mean, because once you start, once you are a propagandist or carrying an agenda, you have to do it, because probably you are paid for it, or your ideology forces you to be like that, which the leftists always do. The third question that you asked about whataboutery, and this is because for a long time their agenda was, whenever you try and expose their hypocrisy, they would say, oh, you are indulging in whataboutery. So, for example, that thread of mine, which was exposing the time, every time they were silent when the Muslim mob attacked, they would say, well, you are saying, And in response to a Hindu mob attacking a Muslim, you are saying, what about a Muslim mob attacking a Hindu? So that I was exposing their hypocrisy. And and it was very dangerous what they were doing, because if you run a selective hate tracker, what it does, it gives the impression that everything is happening for the first time and only Hindus are forming these mobs and attacking Muslims. The other
True.
side is not doing anything. Muslims are not attacking. So everything is being done by the Hindus, by this government, and that gives that impression that, oh my God, we've reached India is the downfall, and you've seen all those democracy trackers. India is no longer a democracy. But let me give you I mean, I've never done this before, but because you asked, and it's on the tip of my tongue, because this kind of whataboutery thing, they are the first people to do it, because any logical, rational person will indulge in whataboutery. It's not bad. Whataboutery is a positive thing, because unless you do whataboutery, how do you expose hypocrisy? You have to expose the person saying that, oh, look, you were silent when this attack was happening, but now you are not. You are, highlighting this attack. So what about that attack? And Ambedkar was the first one who exposed the, through whataboutery, saying that every time you are only exposing the ills of the Hindu religion. What about Islam? Ambedkar said this. Now, would Caravan and all these leftist, rags, would they say, oh, Ambedkar was indulging in whataboutery? But, I mean, for example, if Modi's security was breached in Punjab, what about Manmohan's security breached in Gujarat? If Kashmiri Pandits are killed in Kashmir by terrorists, what about Muslims who are also killed? So every time, you have an instance where they feel pained because it goes against their narrative, they bring about what about? If Aryan Khan is caught with 6 grams of drugs, what about 600 kgs of drugs caught at Adani port? If Hajj pilgrimage is subsidized, what about Kumbh Mela? If namaz is held in public roads and parks, what about Ram Leela and RSS Shaka? Then it is not whataboutery for them. If Kamal Nath withdrew 50,000 cases against Congress leaders, what about Yogi Adityanath withdrawing 20,000 cases against BJP leaders?
True.
If Azan disturbs peace, what about Jagrata? If Tejasvi named Muslims caught in the bed scam, what about Hindus caught in the bed scam? If Rajdeep was suspended for fake news by India Today, what about the India Today right-wing angers who spread fake news but were not suspended? If Arnab arrested under non-BJP government, what about journalists arrested under BJP governments? If Muharram procession is penalized during COVID, what about Hindu procession? If situation in hospitals in Delhi and Mumbai is bad, what about hospitals in Gujarat? If pregnant elephant murdered in Kerala, what about tiger murdered in UP? If Harsh Bandar gave incendiary speech, what about Kapil Mishra's speech? If Modi abused by Congress leaders, what about Modi abusing Congress leaders? If Rajasthan Congress MLA said he won't work for Dalits as they didn't vote for him, what about Menka Gandhi saying she won't work for Muslims if they didn't vote for her? If Archbishop accused of rape, what about Hindu priest accused of rape? If bridge collapsed in Kolkata, what about bridge collapsed in Varanasi? So they are the first ones to bring whataboutery. But when you do whataboutery to expose them, they say, "अरे भैया whataboutery कर रहा है." So ये एजेंडा इनका 8 साल हो गए एक्सपोज करते एज कूल फनी शर्ट कि भाई कोई एक्सपोज ही करते रहोगे या कुछ उसके आगे भी करोगे. So I don't know. I hope that answer. I'm sorry I took a long time to answer your question.
No, sir. I was just looking at the chat room. People are saying, people are sending fire signs basically.
Oh.
And I got into this zone जहाँ पे कई बारी मैंने channels के ऊपर देखा है sir, wherein आपके जब आप panelist के तौर पे जाते हो, people are shouting across the screen, and then your voice comes. Just giving an example, Navika, just give me 30 seconds. और वो जो 30 seconds होते हैं सर, वो यहाँ पे मेरे को अभी नजर आ गया कि अच्छा, this is what it looks like. This is
that's quite embarrassing, because I would never ask for 30 seconds. The point is, you see, I always go prepared for a debate, because for me, just sitting there is completely useless, because and this is one of the things about, you have a 1 hour debate and you get only 2 minutes, which is incredible. So they should be freely able to give anyone 2 minutes, because अगर 6 लोग हैं तो 12 मिनट हो गए, बाकी 48 मिनट आप बोलो, लेकिन वो 2 मिनट के लिए भी मतलब दे दो प्लीज, दे दो, ये करना पड़ता है. तो अगर मैं वो 30 सेकंड ना कहूं ना, तो वो मुझे वो 30 सेकंड नहीं देंगे. और मेरी जो तैयारी होती है, आई वांट टू पुट अक्रॉस 5-6 पॉइंट्स इन अ वे आई वांट टू, सो दैट द ऑडियंस अंडरस्टैंड्स इट विदाउट एनी बायस, विद कंप्लीट ऑब्जेक्टिविटी. बट अब वो दो मिनट के बाद या 1.4 मिनट के बाद मुझे लगता है कि यार अब ये नाविका अब इंटरप्ट करने वाली है, तो मैं कहता हूँ प्लीज गिव मी 30 सेकेंड। अब आई डोंट वांट टू से इट, लेकिन मैं तैयारी करके आता हूँ, मैं चाहता हूँ कि जो मैंने तैयारी की है यार वो तो ऑडियंस सुन ले, कम से कम 2 मिनट ही लगेंगे यार, वो तो कर लेने
सर
दो कम से कम।
सर एक तैयारी आपने और करी। पहली बात तो ये कि आई विल नेवर इंटरफेयर यू व्हाइल यू आर
नहीं
स्पीकिंग,
नहीं,
ऑब्वियसली इट्स अ लर्निंग कर्व फॉर मी। एक चीज
नॉट
की
एट ऑल।
तैयारी आपने और करी सर, एंड दैट वाज नॉट टू अपोलोजाइज फॉर वन ऑफ योर रीसेंट रीसेंट स्टेटमेंट्स जो आपने दिया था। एंड
यस,
लेट मी कोट इट सर, व्हाटएवर हैपेंड टू डिसेंट बीइंग सेफ्टी वाल्व ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी, एंड यू सेड आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू अपोलोजाइज फॉर इट। आपके ऊपर मेरे ख्याल में एक केस भी चल रहा है उसके ऊपर, इफ
केस
आई एम
भी
नॉट
चल
रॉन्ग
रहा है।
सर। तो
यस,
एज अ मीडिया
और जिसके
पर्सनालिटी,
लिए
एज
मैं
अ
खड़ा हुआ, या जिसके
जी।
लिए मैं खड़ा हुआ उसने अनकंडीशनल अपॉलॉजी कर दी है, तो मेरा मन तो कर रहा था यार क्यों कर दिया भाई तुम्हारे लिए मैं खड़ा हुआ और
सो
तुमने या सॉरी कह दिया। सो बट
तो
ईच टू हिज
ऐसा
ओन।
कुछ ऐसा कुछ जब होता है सर कि जिसके लिए खड़े हुए उसी ने सॉरी बोल दिया, आप अपने स्टैंड के ऊपर टिके हुए हो, हाउ डज लाइफ मूव ऑन ऑन टू सच टॉपिक्स देन, एंड डज इट मेक यू फील, डज इट गिव यू दैट रिग्रेटफुल फीलिंग कि यार क्यों पड़ा किसी के पछड़े में, वो तो
नहीं,
किनारे करके
एक्चुअली
निकल गया एंड मैं यहाँ पे हूँ।
इट्स अ ग्रेट क्वेश्चन। और आई मीन आई एम ओनली ह्यूमन, ऑफ कोर्स आई एम। सो मतलब 30 सेकेंड्स कह लो, 30 सेकेंड्स के लिए गुस्सा आता है,
हुँ,
बट देन आई रियलाइज व्हाई एम आई एक्टिंग? Am I acting of my own volition? Am I acting on my principles? Am I acting because I'm doing the right thing? If I am, then I should be able to stand with my biggest haters, leave alone friends. So Vivek was a friend, is a friend, you
हुँ,
know, and I respect S. Guru Murthy ji.
हुँ,
These are people I stood with. Now, Vivek has apologized unconditionally, and I did not, in fact, I did not remark whether the judge was right or wrong or whether Vivek was right or wrong. I only said
हुँ,
I stand with Vivek
हुँ,
Agnihotri because as a principle, I'm against the contempt of court, that charge.
हुँ,
And I've said
हुँ,
it before, I mean, there's nothing new. And ironically, that same week, it was now the Chief Justice, then he was a judge of the Supreme Court, Justice
हुँ,
Chandrachud.
हुँ,
When bail was granted to Gautam Navlakha, he had said, when somebody said, oh, he's being anti-national, he said, no, dissent is the safety valve of democracy.
हुँ,
तो जब विवेक अग्निहोत्री ने उससे कोई सवाल उठाए, जो भी उठाए, मैंने कमेंट बिल्कुल नहीं किया, लेकिन उस पे क्रिमिनल कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ कोर्ट डाल दिया जज ने।
हुँ, हुँ,
तो मैंने कहा भाई अभी तो आपने अभी कहा डिसेंट इज सेफ्टी वॉल्व ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी, अभी आप ये करो आई स्टैंड विद, बिकॉज आई एम प्रिंसिपली अगेंस्ट
हुँ,
द कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ कोर्ट चार्ज, दिस इज व्हाट आई डिड.
हुँ,
So because the court acted, I mean Twitter withheld my 2 tweets.
हुँ,
ये मुझे पता लगाने में ही बहुत टाइम लग गया कि भाई मेरी ये 2 tweets दिख क्यों नहीं रही. People thought I have deleted it. I delete a lot of tweets, but I put that WDTT, whether I'm going to delete it or not, जो भी है. And then next thing I know is कि मेरे पे भी वो डाल दिया. I am also one
हुँ,
of the contemners. So let's see. I mean the hearing will come up soon. And I said, why should I apologize? Yeah, I mean, I'm the first one to apologize for something that I believe I've done wrong.
हुँ,
For a lot of things, it comes naturally to me through my upbringing, you can say, or through the people who I have chosen to be my gurus and my teachers. uh, Even in my language, I use sorry. What did you mean? Sorry. So it's natural, and one should be polite and say sorry. But जहां नहीं कहा, जहां गलती नहीं करी, वहां तो मर जाऊंगा बट सॉरी नहीं कहूंगा यार. यू नो
सर
सो
आपने एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग वर्ड का इस्तेमाल किया यहाँ पे, गुरु।
यस,
गुरु जब किसी कोई वर्ड को सुनता है देन पीपल जनरली विजुअलाइज दिस इमेज ऑफ समवन हु हैज कंट्रीब्यूटेड मैसिवली इन चेंजिंग हु यू आर एंड मेकिंग यू लर्न थिंग्स व्हाटएवर यू हैव गार्नर्ड इन योर लाइफ। नाउ सिंस इट्स अ डिजिटल एरा सर, सो मैं थोड़ा डिजिटल क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा आपसे।
श्योर श्योर.
A lot of people look at you, in terms of how one should behave, in terms of how one should gather knowledge, in terms how one should put forward their facts. Who are your heroes, sir? Especially on social media. Let me just be very specific यहाँ पे कि social media पे आनंद रंगनाथन जी के heroes कौन हैं? If at all there are any.
No, of course there are so many. I mean, one of the reasons why I love Twitter and I am on Twitter, and I was very afraid to be on Twitter initially. I started writing in 2012, I think, or 11, and for a year I wasn't on Twitter because I was so scared of Twitter.
Hmm.
Then I realized this is a platform where there are absolute geniuses, and if you want to learn something, And I've written about this as well. I mean, this thing that intellectual and intellectual thought can only emanate from people who've studied, for 30 years, and they call themselves intellectuals, and they're rubbish. Twitter is a lot like science. One great idea can come in one tweet, can be encapsulated in one tweet, and you say, oh my God, that is just unbelievable. So, I mean, I've learned so much being on Twitter. But when you talk of, real gurus, of course, it's difficult to pin down, but I would say two that come right on the top of my head. One is true Indology, and the other is Media Crooks. I don't know whether you know about these two. True
The first
Indology,
one,
maybe
the
first
first one
one,
I am,
yes,
sir.
yes.
Yes.
I mean, if I when I talk of Media Crooks, I possibly give him my age, because he was the pioneer.
Hmm.
He was slash is the absolute boss. He's the guru.
Hmm.
And whatever I have learned in non-scientific area, whatever little I have learned,
Hmm.
how to go about collecting data, how to how to criticize people,
Hmm.
and how to frame things, what the audiences, what are the bullet points, how to almost like give, you can say, metaphorical PowerPoint presentation.
Hmm.
Whatever those tricks are, tricks of the trade, I have learned from Media Crooks, and so many others have, I suppose. And so he was the absolute boss in 2009. I wrote a piece on him as well. 2011, 12, golden years. Nobody was doing what he was doing then.
Hmm.
Nobody.
Hmm.
And he razor sharp wit, tremendous knowledge, but more than that, that guy is, and in fact, I've since learned that he's come back on Twitter. He was banned by Twitter for 5-6 years. It's really ridiculous. He's come back now, which is great news. Like True Indology has come back as well. uh, uh, but before I go to True Indology, because that Media, let me tell you about Media Crook. So I used to call him, and I still call him, Impossible Diamond.
Hmm.
Impossible diamonds are those that a society, everyone loves diamonds, right? Men as well as women. But people are really put off, and they start hating impossible diamonds. That is, हाँ, अच्छा तो है हमारे लिए, लेकिन यार ये कब, पता नहीं कब साला बैंड बजा दे, और क्योंकि मैं दिल्ली से हूँ, आई कैन यूज सम अदर रफ लैंग्वेज एज वेल.
True.
But बैंड बजाने का, as students, what we use the euphemism for that, कब criticize कर दे ये वो. So I call those people impossible diamonds, because they don't give a damn. They can never be bought. Never.
Hmm. Hmm.
At one point of time, you won't believe it now, there are so many like Media Crook. So many. I mean, he
Hmm.
started it, but when he was ruling the roost, as they say, Modi used to get his blogs printed on paper. And I'm saying this authoritatively. People have told me. Uh, and it used to be delivered to his, on his table in the morning when he was a Gujarat chief minister.
Hmm.
Modi would read Media Crooks.
Okay.
And and I mean, it's very difficult to say how much Media Crooks was responsible for Modi's victory. I mean, it's always but I would say the intelligentsia, the people who knew so many things wrong that were happening, UP was doing.
Hmm.
And the media primarily was the first defense. All these things we learned from Media Crooks. I mean, hundreds of blogs. And I would skip my breakfast, but I would wait for his blogs. And, then we slowly got to know him, and it used to be so frustrating. कि आज क्यों नहीं लिखा क्यों नहीं? Can you imagine? It was all free. It was not like newspapers that you buy, or a book that you buy. He would write for free, and you could go to his mediacrooks.com and you would read it. But जब नहीं होता था ना, you would, where is that adrenaline shot of Media Crooks? Where is that? आज क्यों नहीं लिखा? What is wrong with you, man? All those things would come in. And this must seem very strange to you, but I'm telling you of, those golden years, 2010, 2012. And believe it or not, at that point of time, it was, you can say, Media Crooks 1.0. He showed the mirror to media.
Right.
Now it is Media Crooks 2.0. He's showing the mirror to Modi.
Right.
If you look at his progression,
Hmm.
and I think there's something beautiful, and I say it with I don't know. People will trash me up because he's in his fits of anger. He's abused me as well. But देखो, बहुत कम लोगों को गुरु मानो जिंदगी में. ये मेरा
बिल्कुल,
असूल है. बहुत कम लोग,
बिल्कुल।
पर जिसको मानो वो कुछ भी कर सकता है आपके लिए.
हुँ,
So, he can say anything to me. I'll explain it. If he doesn't believe that explanation, he can abuse me. Lekin, he should not be used as a platform for others to
हुँ,
abuse me. Those
हुँ,
I will block. I'll never block media crooks. He can say anything. He has the, because he's my guru. I
हुँ,
accepted it.
हुँ,
Once, या तो accept ना करो, पीछे से गुस्सा करो कि यार इसने इतना ये कह दिया मुझे. But जो भी वो कह रहा है अभी, वो he's gone. Personally, if you leave to me, everything that Modi does, he will find a fault. But 70-80% of the time, those are logical and rational faults. I will even say this. He's not that Modi derangement syndrome, that leftists are infected with. He's
हुँ,
not infected with that.
हुँ,
But if he will find a fault. But so
हुँ,
what? Modi is our prime minister. For 8 years, you expected a lot. And media crooks, as I say it again, you can say it's arguable whether he had a hand in his victory. But as I say it, I mean, people like us, middle class, upper middle class, intelligentsia, we looked up to media crooks, articles and everything, and they helped in making our decision, against the then dispensation UPA. So he had a hand, no doubt about it. For him to then change and be against Modi or be critical of Modi, I think that is amazing. That tells you something, that A, he cannot be bought,
हुँ,
and B, he expected a lot from Modi
हुँ,
and he waited a lot. And when he doesn't see those things being delivered, he's asking those questions. So, personally, a lot of people who love Modi hate him.
हुँ,
I don't know whether Modi hates him or not. But I surely wish that Modi should not hate him, because कबीर ने क्या कहा है, वो कहावत नहीं है, निंदक नाड़े राखिए. So to cut a very long, I don't know, I'm starting rambling here because I'm thinking 12 years ago, 10 years ago, all of us were young and everything. He is my guru. The other is true Indology. He's a guru for a totally different reason, because he has opened my eyes to so many things that I, as a student of science, not exposed to history, or our history, India's history, Bharat's history, world history. So many things I've learned. So
हुँ।
these two are the gurus, if you ask me: media crooks and true Indology.
But sir, won't you say that's how the hierarchy of authentication happens? Because if I am to look at you, that okay, I need to follow Anand Ranganathan sir, and whatever he says, I can get knowledge from it. Then you say that these are the people you follow, and that's how
Yes.
the chain of authentication happens. And if that trust that you have on those people who have got the right intention, and it's not like कि मोदी को हेल्प किया जीतने में या नहीं, या मोदी को क्रिटिसाइज जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ क्रिटिसिज्म करना है, it's all rational based, it's all logic based ki okay boss, this is what we expected, you have not delivered, we selected you, we elected you,
Yeah.
be answerable. Don't you think that hierarchy of authentication is very important, and it can only happen once there is a rational, जैसे आपने भी बताया मीडिया ग्रुप्स के बारे में कि मोदी used to read him, maybe it
Yes.
contributed in Modi becoming a better orator when it comes to
Yes.
public gathering,
Yes.
the information that you throw out.
Hmm.
And now that Modi maybe at some angles has not delivered or has been failing to deliver, the gurus that we visualize, they are the ones we expect to ask question.
Yes. And let me also be very frank. Why, out of 20 logical and rational people,
Hmm.
you will only have one or two who would be like media crooks or true
Right.
Indology or those? Because um, I'm not saying that the other 18 would be bought as if they're corrupt.
Hmm.
नहीं, वो या तो चुप हो जाएंगे,
Hmm.
या वो कहेंगे चलो यार, मेरा नुकसान नहीं है, मेरा भला भी नहीं है, मैं शांत हो जाता हूं, लेट मी नॉट क्रिटिसाइज.
Hmm.
Very few would say, I don't give a damn. I really don't. मैं देश के हित पे कर रहा हूं. you know
Hmm.
मैं आई एम होल्डिंग दैट पर्सन टू अकाउंट हु सेड होल्ड मी टू अकाउंट.
True.
जब मोदी ने खुद कहा कि आप सब चौकीदार हो, तो भाई
Hmm.
अपना रोल अदा करो ना, बी चौकीदार.
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल.
डोंट बी चाटुकार्स,
Hmm.
बी चौकीदार. So, yes, of course, there is a hierarchy, no doubt about it. But at the same time, you also have to realize that, as I said, let me give you an example. 3 or 4 days ago, something,
Hmm.
that now, during the farm laws protests, during the farm laws, illegally for one whole year,
Hmm.
those quote unquote farmers, but they were middlemen and all those people, they held the whole
Annadaata, sir.
country to ransom.
Annadaata. Annadaata.
Annadatta, yeah, the galat wale annadatta, otherwise
Ji.
farmers, I have respect for
Ji.
farmers, but these were middlemen, arhatiyas and all that, very wealthy quote unquote farmers. They held the country to ransom. They blocked the highways. And there was one billionaire, not so called, actual billionaire from, he's in Canada or US or something. He was against those farm laws, and he started arranging for langars and all those things for that, and he said a lot of things and all that. Now the same Modi government has given him Pravasi Bharatiya award. Same government. The same government banned his entry into India.
Hmm.
अब आप मुझे ये बताइए, ये क्या दर्शाता है आपको? Something is wrong.
Hypocrisy. Hmm.
Hypocrisy. So is media crooks wrong in exposing it? No. The government has to be accounted कि भाई ये क्यों कर रहे हो आप? So ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. And another great friend of mine, Cool Funny T-shirt, he does it, but he does it in a very un-media crooks like way. Media crooks का तो ये है कि तलवार निकली और चल पड़े लड़ने.
Hmm.
Cool Funny Shirt का है, a very delightful way. He says वो 56 क्रांति सेना बनाई भी है उसने. फिर उसके बाद उसका मास्टर स्ट्रोक वाले. So sarcasm से but he's also doing the same thing that media crooks is doing through blunt force.
Hmm.
Cool Funny Shirt is telling you that every damn decision that you should be criticizing, Modi supporters have now started rationalizing it कि हाँ भाई ये master stroke है. मोदी जी ने जरूर कुछ डीप सोचा होगा, ये चेस गेम खेल लिया, 5D move, 7D move, 56 क्रांति. So things are wrong. Expose them. Don't worry about what happens to you, because if you don't do it, then people who respect you, people who look up to you, people who read you, you're being unfair to them. I'm not saying they should respect you or anything like that. No. Take your job, take whatever you do seriously. That's all I'm saying.
सर मास्टर स्ट्रोक्स की आपने बात करी सर. मास्टर स्ट्रोक के काफ़ी सारे ऐसे the worms that are being let loose on social media, especially Telegram groups, and आजकल Telegram is a very nice platform in spreading the information. But एक मास्टर स्ट्रोक और हुआ सर, उसके बारे में as a scientist I want your opinion sir. I don't know whether it falls into your domain or not, but आप भी दिल्ली में है सर, आपने भी इतने सारे कपड़े पहने हुए हैं, मैं भी दिल्ली में हूँ, मैंने इतने सारे कपड़े पहने हुए हैं. एक मास्टर स्ट्रोक एक मास्टर स्ट्रोक वादी है सर जो टी-शर्ट में घूम रहे हैं, उनको ठंड नहीं लग रही है और ये बहुत बड़ा एक रिवॉल्यूशनरी कोई टेक्नोलॉजी आई है सर. हालाँकि आज जैसे आपने ऑफलाइन बात करी थी, बीजेपी के कुछ नेताओं ने ज़ूम इन करके दिखाया है कि अंदर बॉडी वार्मर पहना
I
हुआ है.
saw, yes.
या सो ये कौन-सा मास्टर स्ट्रोक है
I'm,
सर?
by the way, shivering. Let me say, yesterday was 1.5 degrees, and Delhi is absolutely murderous. It's so cold. वेस्ट के नीचे मैं दिखाऊंगा नहीं क्योंकि मैंने वो 3-4 शॉल और रजाइयां वगैरह सब लगा रखी हैं यहाँ पे. And as it happens, none of our houses are centrally air conditioned, obviously,
राइट.
so, or centrally heated rather. तो जरा सा हीटर भी नहीं लगा हुआ यहाँ पे, तो खैर जो भी है. बट राहुल गांधी महान आत्मा, जैसे मैंने कहा ना, वो पुरुष नहीं है.
महापुरुष.
let me pause for 3 seconds. वो पुरुष नहीं है. वो महापुरुष है. But I mean, I also said, I mean, if you really want a scientific explanation, then there is a gene. A mutation in that gene allows a person to withstand intense cold. And 1 in 5 people have a mutation in that gene, So maybe Rahul Gandhi is one of those fortunate ones to have that mutation.
But does that mutation come naturally, sir, or does it come from those photos? Does it come from those photos which we see कि बॉलीवुड की आज एक्ट्रेस यहाँ पे आ गई, आज दूसरी एक्ट्रेस आ गई, फिर कोई दूसरी एक्ट्रेस आ गई? Is it transferable by air or by any other physical form or system?
Let me say, this is beyond science.
This
To
is
use beyond science.
But jokes apart, sir, how do you see? Let's appreciate for a moment, be it for the sake of hypocrisy or whatever it is. Bharat Jodo Yatra is a nice initiative wherein a politician is walking 3,000 kilometers all across India, trying to spread around a message of Bharat Jodo. हालांकि पहले कह रहे थे कि पूरे देश में नफरत का माहौल है, फिर अब कह रहे हैं कि मैं तो जहां जा रहा हूं वहां पे मुझे प्यार ही प्यार दिखाई दे रहा है, नफरत है नहीं. Keeping those things aside, do you think something like this can be and should be and is being taken seriously by the people? And for the sake of it, is this going to be yet another launch of Rahul Gandhi in the race of Prime Minister?
No, no, as I said, it is working fantastic. Bharat jud raha hai. So he is uniting India, unfortunately for him, against the Congress. भारत जुड़ रहा है, बट जो वो चाहते थे भारत जुड़ने के बाद जो भारत करे, वो ये कांग्रेस को हराएगा भारत. Because see, I'll tell you, as you said, it's great if somebody is walking, and their politicians are hypocrites to begin with. I mean, you won't be a politician if you're not indulging in hypocrisy. Everyone does it. Modi does it. Kejriwal does it. Rahul Gandhi does it. Everyone does it. Problem is, आप कुछ ज्यादा ही चढ़ जाओ और ये दुनिया को बताते रहो कि नहीं भाई, मैं हिपोक्रेट नहीं हूं, मैं चेंज लाना चाहता हूं, मैं भारत को जोड़ना चाहता. सबसे ज्यादा तोड़ा भारत को कांग्रेस ने. जितनी पॉलिसी, तभी मैं कहता हूं मोदी भी इज अ वेरी लकी गाय, बिकॉज वॉट एवर पॉलिसीज जेन्युइनली यू वुड लाइक टू क्रिटिसाइज मोदी ऑन, you know, for example, repealing the farm laws, for example, not removing government from the business of running businesses, having even more public sector units as a immense drain on our economy. All those steps, you should any logical Indian should be scathing against Modi, you know. But Congress supports Modi in that. तो किस तरह का ऑपोजिशन हुआ ये? अभी आप ये ओल्ड पेंशन स्कीम ले लीजिए, हिमाचल में ये जीते. They have junked the new pension scheme and they have reverted to the old pension scheme. और कभी 3-4 दिन पहले ही, मतलब मेरा एक क्लिप वायरल हुआ था, बट किसी पॉलिटिशियन ने, बीजेपी वाला तो खैर वो तो अलग अपनी हवा में, ये दे आर ऑल वेटिंग फॉर मोदी जी को जो कहेंगे उस पे जीतेंगे. पर just as an aside, what I said should have been said by the BJP or should have been said by any other person who saw Congress junking the new pension scheme. Old pension scheme that they have brought back, reverted to, is going to bankrupt the state, you know. And the new pension scheme was brought by in that state or around the country in a lot of states by a Congress Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh. It was formulated by Montague Ahluwalia. Montague Ahluwalia of the Congress said कि भाई, this would be disaster for the states if they were to go back to old pension scheme. अब प्रॉब्लम है कि इनको वोट चाहिए, ये they want to placate their vote bank. So 80% of Himachal's tax revenues is going to go into funding the old pension scheme. पैसा कहाँ है स्टेट्स के पास? पंजाब आपने ऑलरेडी कर दिया, राजस्थान इज रिवर्टेड, छत्तीसगढ़ आई थिंक इज रिवर्टिंग. तो ये सब चीजों पे आपको देश का साइड देना चाहिए. फार्म लॉज जो थे, वो तीनों फार्म लॉज almost verbatim were in the Congress manifesto. Believe it or not. और इसको सडनली जो मोदी लाया तो इसको काले बिल कहना शुरू कर दिया. मोदी ने रिपील किया तो कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट कर रहे हैं मोदी को. तो ये देश देखता है कि भाई ये चीजें तो तुम चाहते थे. फार्मर्स का बेनिफिट इतना ज्यादा होता, that India would have been catapulted to middle income economy. I'm not joking. Now our GDP per capita is $2,000 or $2,500. Within 10 to 15 years, we would have reached a GDP per capita of at least $12,000 to $13,000 like China did in 10 years. Because remember, 44% of our active labor force of 515 million odd people are into agriculture. 44%. In any developed country, it's 2 to 3%. Even middle income or high income countries that are not yet developed, it's 2%, 3%. Yeah, it's 44%. And these farm laws would have changed the whole dimension in which these 44% people work in. Everything would have changed. So it was Congress promised it, Modi brought it, then Congress opposed it. ऐसे जोड़ोगे आप भारत, तो there is no hope for this country. तभी कह रहा हूं, मतलब you relax. I have learned to relax. मीडिया क्रुक्स की तरह से मुझे ज्यादा गुस्सा नहीं आता है, क्योंकि एक तो हेल्थ का भी प्रॉब्लम है, दूसरा ज्यादा गुस्सा करूंगा बीपी बढ़ेगा, चेंज ज्यादा होने वाला है नहीं. एंड मोदी जी अपनी लेवल से काम कर रहे हैं, वो जीतते रहेंगे. बिकॉज उन्होंने भी ये सोच लिया है, उन्होंने सोच लिया है कि मैं पहले 5-6 साल, जो अभी नेक्स्ट 5-6 साल हैं, उसमें सब लोगों को सब चीज दे दूंगा जो कि हर स्टेट को वेलफेयर, बेसिकली इज अ स्टेटस कोइस्ट एंड अ बिलीवर इन वेलफेयर स्टेट. Problem comes is when the money runs out, because I am also for welfare state, but I realize socialism cannot fund a welfare state. Only capitalism can. For that you need reforms. You need farm reforms, you need to junk PSUs, you need labor reforms. वो सब लाने की अभी इनकी हिम्मत नहीं है. You need to privatize banks, you need to privatize everything that government owns. That he won't do. तो sooner or later डेट में जाते चलते चले जाएंगे, डेवलपमेंट फिर कम होना शुरू हो जाएगा. ये वही साइकिल रिपीट होगा जो कि लिबरलाइजेशन से पहले हुआ था, व्हेन नॉट मनमोहन सिंह एंड नरसिम्हा राव ब्रॉट लिबरलाइजेशन, बट वर्ल्ड बैंक एंड IMF फोर्स्ड अस टू लिबरलाइज. वही दोबारा से होगा. सो ट्रेजेडी है. As they say, history repeats itself, first as a farce and then as a tragedy, or first as a tragedy as a farce. I can't remember, but you get the picture.
सर आई नो मैंने स्टिपुलेटेड टाइम से ज्यादा समय ले लिया है ऑलरेडी, बट बट एक छोटा सा फॉलोइंग क्वेश्चन ऑन दिस सर, एंड आई विल आस्क अ लास्ट क्वेश्चन पोस्ट दिस इफ यू अलाउ मी टू. क्योंकि चूंकि आपने रिलैक्सेशन की बात करी, अब आई डोंट वांट टू शो कि आपने कितने सारे शॉल रखे हुए अपने लैप के ऊपर ठंड से बच के रिलैक्स करने के लिए. बट ऑन अ सीरियस नोट सर, जब ये फार्म बिल वापस लिए गए, did it not give an impression that irrespective of whether we elect a government with full majority, BJP in itself can run the government, it does not need any alliance for that matter. अगर हिंदी में बोला जाए तो सर घुटने तो टेके. अब जयपुर डायलॉग में, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू यूज द लैंग्वेज व्हिच वाज यूज्ड, बट जयपुर डायलॉग्स में संजय सर ने पूछा था, उस अभिजीत अय्यर मित्रा जी आए हुए थे कि नेशनल सिक्योरिटी का इशू था, तो अभिजीत सर ने बोला कि क्या इशू था, और उन्होंने बोला नेशनल सिक्योरिटी, एंड अभिजीत अय्यर मित्रा used a very explicit word कि I don't know if you've seen that, but he used some kind of a language.
Okay.
But irrespective of, अगर नेशनल सिक्योरिटी इशू था भी सर, तो तुम्हारा काम है नेशनल सिक्योरिटी को सिक्योर करना. मतलब उसके बेसिस पे.
See, I'll tell you. I've got your question. Sorry, was there? You may please finish it.
No, that was about it, sir.
Okay. So see, the thing is, as Modi ji said, कि मैंने ये किसानों के हित में लाया था, देश के हित में वापस ले रहा हूं. यार, नंबर 1, एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर जो है, it contributes only 12.5 to 13% to our GDP. But at the same time, 82% of all Indian households, 82% of all Indian households are dependent on agriculture. 82%. As I said, 44% of our active labor force is involved in agriculture. आप ये farm laws ला रहे हो तीनों, they would have changed the whole agricultural sector. They would have changed the way we grow crops, the kind of crops we grow. Sugarcane is now being grown to placate, sugar lobby and other things. Gas, absolute guzzling, water guzzling requires only 9% or 7% of the cultivated arable land, but needs 72% of irrigated water. And sugar prices have halved in the last 5 years. All those things. Our buffer capacity is 30 million tons of rice. Right now, FCI godowns में 100 million tons है, चूहे खा रहे हैं. ये सब चीजें हमारे देश की मदद करती ना. तो आप ये कह रहे हो देश के हित में ये फार्म लॉज वापस ले रहा हूं. आई एम सॉरी, एक्सप्लेन करो. आपकी ये फार्म बिल्स वापस लेने से 300-400 मिलियन फार्मर्स, 250 मिलियन फार्मर्स को घाटा हुआ है. If I lose money, if I lose huge amount, chunk of money going forward, I'm sorry, the Prime Minister has to explain to me, not in abstract terms, कि मैं देश के हित में वापस, अरे भाई या तो मुझे वो पैसे दो, compensate करो, फिर कहते रहना देश के हित में वापस ले रहा हूं. Give me my salary that would have increased in the next 10 years. Pay me, compensate me. Then I don't care, you take back the thing. But you're not even going to do that. So that's why I'm saying we are a banana republic. People just accepted it. And the same Supreme Court, जिसपे हम कहते हैं कि उसको एक्ट करना चाहिए. एक तो इलीगैलिटी को उसने लीगलाइज कर लिया. 1 साल तक हाईवेज ब्लॉक थे. शाहीन बाग में भी यही हुआ. बाद में आके कह रहे हैं कि इट इज इलीगल. तब क्या कर रहे थे भाई? दूसरा, जितने सारे केसेस में सब लोगों ने राइटिंग करी, वो सारे गवर्नमेंट ने केसेस वापस ले लिए उन पे. तो There is always between anarchists and the government. They are looking eye to eye. They are.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
want to see who blinks first. And
Hmm.
every single bloody time our governments blink, you know. So the anarchists think, हाँ भाई ये तो हार मानने वाले हैं, तो चलो कूदो लड़ो। उसमें रेड फोर्ट पे क्या हुआ था?
Hmm.
एनार्किस्ट जाके अपना देश का झंडा नीचे किया था, क्या हुआ उसके बाद? सारे केसेस वापस ले लिए बाय द वे,
Right.
घुटने टेक दिए। जो लंगर लगा रहे थे उनको अवार्ड दे रही है सरकार। वो सब चलो ठीक है, आप यू प्लेकेटिंग, यू डूइंग अपीसमेंट, बट यहाँ पे कॉन्क्रीट घाटा हो रहा है लोगों का, जो 1 साल तक ब्लॉकेड हुआ। लैक्स ऑफ क्रोर्स ऑफ मनी बिजनेस पीपल लॉस्ट बिकॉज all the shops that were next to the highway towns, they got no business for a year. Who
Right.
compensated them? Modi should have compensated them. वो किया नहीं। कह रहे हो देश के लिए वापस ले रहा हूं, आई एम सॉरी, इफ आई वॉज द चीफ जस्टिस I would have called Modi, I would have put him on the dock, and I would have forced compensation out of him or give a reasonable explanation. You can't just get away by saying कि देश के लिए वापस ले रहा हूं, ये तो देश के हित में थे, so you are
बिल्कुल,
going against India.
बिल्कुल।
Modi was being anti-national by taking back the farm laws. But वही है ना अपना देश, क्या कहें?
100 में से 99 बेईमान, फिर भी मेरा भारत महान सर।
मेरा भारत
किसी ने मेरे ख्याल में पीपल सॉ दिस अ लॉन्ग टाइम बैक हाउ द नेशन इज गोइंग टू बी, एंड राइट उन्होंने स्टेटमेंट्स और मुहावरे निकाल के आगे रखे। एक लास्ट
नहीं,
क्वेश्चन आपसे लेना
या
चाहता हूँ सर। जी
श्योर।
जी सर, प्लीज।
नहीं, मैं ये कह रहा था कि अब तो ये सब करने के बाद ना अब समझ में आ गया देयर इज नो होप
हम्म।
रियली। तो उसी में खुश रहो ना यार। मतलब आई माय एक्सपेक्टेशन फ्रॉम मोदी आर द फॉलोइंग। फॉर द नेक्स्ट 4-5 years आप सब लोगों को, भले ही डेट में चला जाए देश, चलो जाने दो यार, लोगों को टॉयलेट्स दो, टैप वाटर कनेक्शन दो, गैस सिलेंडर दो। यही चीजों से बिलीव इट और नॉट उनकी हेल्थ भी इंप्रूव होगी, लाइफ स्पैन भी ऊपर जाएगा, बिकॉज साइंटिफिक स्टडीज हैव शोन, in fact there has been 19% reduction in pollution related deaths because of उज्ज्वला स्कीम। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि ये स्कीम इंडिया की डेवलपमेंट नहीं कर रही, लेकिन हम लीप फ्रॉग नहीं कर सकते। हम इंक्रीमेंटली ही आगे जाएंगे। जो जहां पे हम 10 साल में पहुंच सकते थे, वहां पे हम 30 साल में पहुंचेंगे। ठीक है यार, मतलब गुड लक।
वो स्लो एंड स्टडी विंस रेस को कुछ ज्यादा ही सीरियस ले लिया गया है सर मेरे ख्याल
स्लो
में।
एंड स्टडी, आई डोंट नो। अब विनिंग द रेस भी तो है ना, कि अब आप 100 मीटर उसेन बोल्ट से कहो कि यार ऐसा है, मैंने ये लगा दिया, मैं पॉज कर देता हूँ टीवी, और मैं अगले साल देखूंगा कि तुमने रेस जीती है कि नहीं जीती।
सर,
इट्स
इन
लाइक
सब चीज़ों के बीच में कांग्रेस जनरली एक स्टेटमेंट देता है कि बीजेपी या आरएसएस को whether they have the right to represent the Hindus or not. अब हिंदुत्व is another thing that I don't want to get into sir, but हिंदूज को represent करने का हक basically बीजेपी को या आरएसएस को है कि नहीं? Now this coming from a party which has given countless amount of land charity में दूसरे नेशंस को, लेट्स पुट इट दैट वे। आई वोंट इवन से कि किसी ने छीन लिया, मैं कह रहा हूँ चैरिटी में दे दिया। दिस इज द पार्टी जिसने फ्रीडम मूवमेंट को एक क्या कहते हैं उसको, एक एकाधिकार मान के रख लिया कि हमने ही किया, जो कुछ किया किसी और ने कुछ भी नहीं किया। दिस इज द पार्टी जिसने सारे के सारे एयरपोर्ट्स हो, बड़े मॉन्यूमेंट्स हो, नाम हो, सड़कें हो, जो भी हो, अपने अपने घर वालों के नाम पे रखा है। डू यू थिंक people with such dynasty wala attitude, people with such nepotism wala attitude, people with such self indulgence wala attitude, do they have the right to ask questions irrespective of chahe wo bjp ho, rss ho, vhp koi bhi ho? They somehow directly or indirectly represent in terms of how India feels today. चाहे वो खुल के इंडिया सामने नहीं आ रहा कि ठीक है हम हिंदू हैं, हम बाहर निकल के सड़कों के ऊपर हिंदू कह रहा है कि हिंदू है, पर हिंदू अभी भी घर के अंदर ही बैठा है सर, वो ऐसे सड़कों पे निकला नहीं है अपने अधिकार को मांगने के लिए। So where do you see this distinction, this difference of how things should have been, how things could have been, and how people want it to be? इस सिनारियो में डू यू थिंक वी आर स्टक इन अ लिम्बो कि पहले सॉरी सर मैं थोड़ा ज्यादा टाइम ले
नहीं
रहा हूँ
नहीं नो।
क्वेश्चन को फ्रेम करने में, बट वुड इट बी करेक्ट टू से कि कांग्रेस आज का टाइम का मुस्लिम लीग है और बीजेपी आज का टाइम का कांग्रेस है बिफोर 1947?
What an absolutely fantastic analogy. Absolute. I wouldn't have put it better, really. And just to answer your question, to begin answering your question, yes, the Congresses have no right to ask this, but we have.
Hmm.
So, the role of the opposition has to shift from the opposition to the common man. And
Right.
ironically, it is Modi who encouraged this. And it is befuddling why Modi is not listening to us, because Modi said कि आप सब चौकीदार हो, you know, मैं तो प्रधान सेवक हूं.
जी.
मोदी ने हमें रिस्पॉन्सिबल, आई टेक इट, आई एम सॉरी मोदी जी, मुझसे गलती हो गई अगर आप चाहते नहीं थे कि मैं चौकीदार बनूं, लेकिन आपने ही तो कहा था. तो जब मैं चौकीदार बनता हूं तो मुझे गालियां क्यों पड़ती हैं? हर एक आदमी ये सोचेगा, अगर उसको मीडिया क्रुक से सोचेगा, कूल फनी शर्ट ये सोचेगा, और बहुत बहुत सारे लोग ये सोचेंगे. बहुत सारे बीजेपी में लोग, एक हैं, मैं बताता हूं आपको, बीजेपी मिनिस्टर है अश्विनी उपाध्याय जी, हर जगह पीआईएल डालते हैं वो, एंड दे वांट द बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट्स टू एक्ट, और बीजेपी ही उनको गालियां देती है. अभी उन्होंने यूसीसी आप लाइए, ये उन्होंने याचिका डाली. बीजेपी ने कहा कि इस कोर्ट से कहा कि ये तो बहुत ही फ्रिवलस याचिका है, मेरे को वर्ड्स याद नहीं आ रहे, पुअरली रिटन याचिका, इसको बाहर फेंको. मतलब बीजेपी अपने ही आदमी को डांट. तो उन्होंने कुछ कहावत कही थी कि कश्ती पानी कम था, अपनों ने ही मार दिया, मतलब अपनों ने ही जैसा किया तो औरों पे क्या, आई कांट रिमेंबर. तो पॉइंट इज, बीजेपी एक तरह से, ऐसे आपने कहा ना, कांग्रेस बन गई है. 10,000% करेक्ट. इट इज नाउ स्टार्टेड. एक तो पहले ही मैं कहने वाला था, इट स्टार्टेड फिलिंग विद साइकोफैंट्स, बट बहुत सारे कांग्रेसीज वगैरह भी तो आ गए ना इसमें. आधे तो बंगाल में टीएमसी वाले आ गए थे. तो दुनिया भर का कचरा जिसको बीजेपी क्रिटिसाइज करती रहती थी, वो अब बीजेपी में आ गया है. और वो बीजेपी वालों को ये सिखा रहा है कि भाई साइकोफेंट बनो, इसमें बहुत फायदा है तुम्हारा. वाह मोदी जी वाह कहते रहो, आगे जाओगे. ओके, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I seriously believe it is true, because Modi ji doesn't object to people being sycophantic. So and if you can't see through sycophancy, then I'm afraid you are a sycophant. इसमें क्या हो रहा है, आरएसएस का रोल बहुत धीरे धीरे कम होता जा रहा है. और एक जगह मैं भी, if I have learned something in the last 10-12 years being exposed to politics and analyzing this, I have kind of changed my view on the RSS. I truly believe that RSS को कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता पॉलिटिक्स से, कोई हारे कोई जीते, ये वो, एक्चुअली वो देश के लिए कुछ करना चाहते हैं. It is not as corrupt. Everyone is corrupt. Okay, it's not, I'm just not talking of money corruption. I'm talking of moral corruption, ethical corruption. I am also corrupt. I also take many decisions that, in hindsight, I would say, oh my God, I shouldn't have done it. That's corruption.
Right.
But RSS is much less corrupt than the BJP. Why that has happened is befuddling, because every BJP member comes from the RSS. तो बाद में जाके क्या मतलब, ये तो ग्रेजुएट होते होते आप ज्यादा करप्ट कैसे हो सकते हो यार, आपकी ग्राउंडिंग इसका मतलब अच्छी नहीं है. आई डोंट नो, व्हाटएवर द रीजन, बट आई हैव स्टार्टेड टू एडमायर, like let me put it this way, 10 years ago I used to like the BJP, I used to hate the RSS. Now I like the RSS very much. I don't quite hate anyone because of my situation, health or otherwise. I'm beyond that anyway, but I don't like the way BJP and the way Modi is going about its business, especially with a majority, with the brute force of things. It should not be afraid. It should take steps in India's interest, because people are going to remember this. Farmers are going to remember this. People, और बाद में क्या आया, 83% of the farmers were for the farm laws.
True.
It came out. Supreme Court said this.
Right.
But वो सड़क पे आ जाते क्या? 83% of farmers सड़क पे आए, तो वो फार्मिंग कौन करेगा यार? तो ये चीजें लोगों को समझनी चाहिए ना. लोगों के हित में काम करो, मेजॉरिटी है आपके पास, ये सब चीजें करो जो कि देश को आगे बढ़ाए. पीपल आर गोइंग टू, दे आर नॉट गोना, लोग अपनी लेगेसी भली जब काम कर रहे होते हैं सोचते नहीं है कि मेरी लेगेसी क्या होगी, बट दिस इज बियॉन्ड दैट. दिस इज बियॉन्ड बीइंग एब्स्ट्रैक्ट. सो हैट्स ऑफ टू यू. BJP is almost certainly what Congress was 50-60 years ago. Absolutely true. Absolutely.
सर, आपने जो ये 83% वाली बात बोली, उस टाइम पे ये भी आया था, एंड आई एम सेइंग दिस विथ ऑल सिंसियरिटी, कि उड़ता हुआ पंजाब उस टाइम पे बेसिकली आया था प्रोटेस्ट करने के लिए, और कोई भी नहीं आया, बिकॉज नोवेयर इन इंडिया यू सॉ सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ प्रोटेस्ट. नॉट इवन 1% ऑफ इट कि सरकार ने हमारे साथ ये कर दिया या वो कर दिया.
मैंने बताया ना, नॉट मोर देन 3 million, वो भी मिडिलमैन थे. Prosperous farmers थे 3 million मिल के, and we have 200 million farmers. As I said, 44% of our 500 million active labor force is in farming. तो 3 मिलियन लोगों ने जैसे गवर्नमेंट ने कहा, मतलब आपने कहा गवर्नमेंट ने घुटने टेक दिए
जी।
और घुटने टेकने के बाद जो करता है आदमी, आप जानते हैं, you begin to crawl, as Advani said, we only asked you to bend, you started crawling. So those guys possibly only asked the government to bend, and the government started crawling. एक बार आप देख लेते हो किसी को क्रॉल करते हुए, तो इज्जत तो दूर की बात है, यू विल स्टार्ट रिपीट इट एवरी सिंगल टाइम. और आप देखना, अभी जब भी ये सरकार रिफॉर्म लाएगी, पहली बात तो मुझे नहीं लगता ये लाएगी, जब ये लाएगी 6 महीने में वो वापस ले लेगी.
सर अब रिफॉर्म नहीं आएंगे, छोटा मुंह बड़ी बात, अभी सिर्फ कंस्ट्रक्शन आएंगे सर. अभी अयोध्या की फोटो आएगी 2024 के पहले कि देखो कितना अच्छा मंदिर बना दिया, फिर ज्ञान
अच्छा,
वापी
उसमें
का होगा.
सरकार ने क्या किया? कुछ नहीं किया.
कुछ भी नहीं सर.
वो तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का है. सरकार का तो, बीजेपी का तो रोल तब होता अगर वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट अगेंस्ट होता और ये ओवरटर्न करती, जैसे शाह बानो का, तब कह सकते थे हाँ भाई बीजेपी. ये तो 5-0 सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है, और सुप्रीम कोर्ट बेस्ड इट्स जजमेंट purely on scientific merits as well as ASI and all those things. So, BJP's got, I'm sorry, BJP's got nothing to do with it. ये तो हिंदुओं का पैसा लूट रहे हैं ज्यादा. Temples are more, as I said, more temples are under control now than they were under the Congress. So,
बिल्कुल. Now before we wrap up सर, मेरे ख्याल में I do believe कि I know the reason कि राहुल गांधी को ठंड क्यों नहीं लगती सर, क्योंकि जैसे हम फार्मर प्रोटेस्ट की बात कर रहे थे सर, I recall कि प्राइमरी
ये
टाइम
कुछ
फ्रेम जो
वो तो
शुरू
नहीं
हुआ,
है.
उसी पे आ रहा था सर मैं कि प्राइमरी टाइम फ्रेम उस टाइम पे भी विंटर था, अभी भी विंटर है. और
हाँ.
मोदी जी ने तो पार्लियामेंट में बोला हुआ है भगवंत मान जी के लिए कि जब तक जियो खुल के. तो मे बी लिटिल इन द नाइट एंड दैट्स हाउ द डेज आर
Yes.
बीइंग स्पेंट. बट सर बहुत ज्यादा समय ले लिया मैंने आपका, बट आई
नहीं
डू
नहीं,
वांट
it's a real pleasure. Thank you very
I
much.
do want a closing comment from you, sir, in terms of a mentor, in terms of a media personality, in terms of a educator. Uh, if you want to send any message, be it whatever, to the people who are watching right now, जो बाद में भी देखेंगे, in terms of how you should lead your life, how you should gather knowledge, or whatever you want to say, sir.
नहीं नहीं, it's, I'm too little to give messages and प्रवचन
नहीं
देना.
सर, ये नहीं सर, you are part
नहीं
of
नहीं
that hierarchy का authentication,
नहीं
sir.
नहीं नहीं, absolutely not. But what I would say is what I try to have those values. Very few. Like to keep it very simple. Occam's razor type का, 2-3 चीजें. That आप कोई भी statement दो, it should be as if it is your dying declaration. Stand true to that. और कोई भी आप पब्लिक में कोई भी स्टेटमेंट दो, you should have already been a devil's advocate for it. So rather than give the opportunity to, for example, Sandeep, you or anyone else to find out flaws in that, you suppress your ego to that extent कि आप खुद हर एक स्टेटमेंट, अपनी स्टेटमेंट में फ्लॉज देखो. खुद आप इंप्रूव करोगे तो बाकी लोगों को चांस नहीं मिलेगा. तो यही सीक्रेट तो मैं नहीं कहूंगा, बिकॉज आई डोंट थिंक दिस इज एनीथिंग नॉवल. बट इफ एट ऑल पीपल से, बहुत बार लोग कहते हैं कि सर कोई आप पे अटैक नहीं कर सकता, सिर्फ ये रीजन है उसका कि मैंने खुद अपने आप पे अटैक किया हुआ पहले. सो आई डोंट गिव अदर्स अ चांस. आई हैव ऑलरेडी थॉट ऑफ द फ्लॉज एंड आई हैव करेक्टेड देम. एंड इफ दे कांट बी करेक्टेड, if they indeed are flaws, then you stand true and say that yes, this is right. I mean, what this person is saying or this government is doing is wrong. You stand for that, or what the Supreme Court is doing, or आके कर ले यार, क्या करोगे, वैसे ही वही है. We are all children of a chance creation of 4 billion years ago. This is not so I guess being an atheist helps in this. No one is special, and nothing matters. I'm just like E. coli. In fact, I'm worse off than E. coli. E. coli is much more successful than humans are. So at the end, nothing matters. You hear very fleetingly, and but the time you're here, really enjoy what you do. Do not be afraid of anything. I think it's not a message. I'm sorry, I'm too little to give that message, but that is how I lead my public life.
Sir, even I will tell you, do not be afraid of the winter, sir. सारे शॉल्स को उठा के फेंक दीजिए घर के बाहर.
वो एक्सेप्शन, वो जो राहुल गांधी ने कहा ना कि ये विंटर भी एक सोच है, नहीं भैया, यहाँ थर थर कांप रहे हैं, ऐसी कोई सोच नहीं है. Ultimately it is human cells, and if they feel that troubled, then you please take steps. The whole world tries to be
हाँ,
uses science to be more comfortable. That is why heaters were invented. That is why 50 डिग्री heat में air conditioning is invented. कोई 50 डिग्री में ये नहीं कहेगा कि मुझे बड़ा कंफर्टेबल लग रहा है, एसी की जरूरत नहीं है, मतलब वो पागल ही होगा। मैं
राइट।
ये नहीं कह रहा कि या हो सकता है कि माइंड को इतना राहुल गांधी ने इतना कंट्रोल किया हुआ है, जैसे मैंने कहा ना, महापुरुष है वो।
महापुरुष
तो अगर
है।
वो
उनके लिए
महापुरुष है, देन आई इम्प्लोर यू टू वोट फॉर राहुल गांधी नेक्स्ट टाइम, महापुरुष होने
उनके
के लिए।
उनके लिए डर का माहौल नहीं है सर, पर हमारे लिए डर का माहौल है। ठंड से डर लग रही है। बट सर, इट इट वाज़ अ प्लेज़र सर, इट वाज़ अ प्लेज़र एंड
प्लेजर वाज ऑल माइन।
अ लॉट टू लर्न। एंड जैसे मैंने आपको ऑफलाइन भी बोला था आने के पहले कि होपफुली यू व्हेनेवर यू विल हैव टाइम आप फिर से चैनल पे आएँगे। देयर आर अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस जो मैं आज आपसे नहीं पूछ पाया सर, बिकॉज़ ऑफ अदर क्वेश्चंस।
टाइम, या श्योर,
एंड आई होप सर कि आप फिर से दोबारा मौका ज़रूर देंगे।
वुड बी अ प्लेजर। थैंक यू सो मच। थैंक
थैंक
यू।
यू सो मच सर।
टेक
जय
केयर।
श्री राम सर।
थैंक
टेक
यू।
केयर। तो जी ये थे आनंद सर। अ लॉन्ग अवेटेड सेशन आप लोगों के लिए था कि नहीं पता नहीं, बट मेरे लिए अ लॉन्ग अवेटेड सेशन। 2 इयर्स इन द मेकिंग, फ्रैंकली स्पीकिंग, एवर सिंस यूट्यूब शुरू किया तो हमेशा से इच्छा थी कि ऐसे इंटेलेक्चुअल लोगों से कन्वर्सेशन हो, उनसे सीखने का मौका मिला। आई डू वॉच ऑल हिज़ डिबेट्स, ऑल हिज़ लेक्चर्स जो यूट्यूब पे अवेलेबल होते हैं, एंड होपफुली दिल्ली में ही रहते हैं तो होपफुली कभी लाइफ में मौका रहा तो मिलने का भी मौका मिलेगा और एक सेल्फी खींच के डालेंगे और कुछ अच्छा सा करेंगे। बट दिस इज़ व्हाट इट वाज़ टुडे। कल एक और गेस्ट लेके आ रहा हूँ मैं एक वेरी डिफरेंट टॉपिक के ऊपर। यू नो द गेस्ट। कन्फर्मेशन मैं कल दोपहर में दूँगा और इवेंट को अनाउंस करूँगा। इस वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा आगे पहुँचाने के लिए प्लीज़ लाइक द वीडियो, शेयर द वीडियो सोशल मीडिया पे, फेसबुक पे शेयर करो जितना ज़्यादा कर सकते हो। कॉ जितने भी लोग अभी देख रहे हो, बाद में देख रहे हो, प्लीज़ लीव कमेंट ऑन द वीडियो ताकि वीडियो में कमेंट करते हो तो रिकमेंडेशन में वीडियो आगे जाता है। एंड ट्विटर, सोशल मीडिया, wherever you can help. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow at 10 o'clock with one more guest. आज के लिए धन्यवाद समय देने के लिए। जय श्री राम, जय हिंद, टेक केयर, बाय बाय।